What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Sports Speaks on YouTube. Hashtag Keep It Real. Sravan here with RJ and Eric. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Look for the Shield and subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. Fellas, how we doing?
I'm good.
Doing great.
All right, a lot to get into on tonight's show, and we take our attention to the men in green, who took on the Trailblazers in their second match of the NBA restart, where they took a close 128 to 124 win over Portland. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum led the way with 30 and 34 points respectively. The Celtics sit at third in the Eastern Conference behind Milwaukee and Toronto at a record of 44 and 22. As we look at the other early games of the day, the Wizards lost to the Nets 118 to 110, with Karis LeVert, Joe Ingles, and Jared Allen leading the way for Brooklyn. Also, the Spurs took a 108 to 106 victory against the Grizzlies. DeJounte Murray was the leader of the game for San Antonio. Eric, when you see the Celtics team, the way they are playing, everyone goes back to the loss to Milwaukee, where it seemed to the public that the Greek Freak was getting preferential treatment from officiating with the foul trouble. Is that a reason why they lost and subsequently pulled off a close one against Portland, or is there another factor that comes into this equation?
I think that Giannis was definitely getting preferential treatment in that game, but I don't think that's the entire reason the Celtics lost. I think the main reason is that they've had like 3 or 4 months off, and anytime that happens, like you're going to see teams get a little rusty no matter what. I just don't like that, people are jumping all over Tatum for going, I think it was 2 for 18 from the field or something around there. And, all of social media jumps all over him when he's been basically the entire Celtics franchise for the past 2 years. I think Tatum is still one of the top five players in the league, and he's still basically the entire Celtics team. But actually, it's not fair for me to say that. I think Tatum is obviously a leader. He's a star. But the Celtics have a lot of good players on their team, a lot of good role players such as Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart. They got a lot of players on their team that do a lot for the team's success that don't get a lot of credit. And I think you give Tatum some time to get back to who he was before the pandemic, and you give those role players some time to get adjusted as well. And I still think the Celtics are a contender to make it to the finals. I think it comes down to Celtics Bucks in the Eastern Conference, and I think there's a real possibility that the Celtics come out on top.
RJ, go ahead.
Well, Jason Tatum didn't have a good game in Milwaukee. He definitely shut up all the haters today with the win over the Trailblazers, and that was may I just say that was a great game. And the funny thing is I think it was him or somebody else blamed it on his hair, because he cut his hair to like his normal, shape up kind of hair, and that's definitely not the reason. I mean, you can say it is, but he definitely had a better game. Now, I will say this though, him having a bad game was the number one reason why the Celtics lost to Milwaukee, for one. If he doesn't play well down the stretch and into the playoffs, they're not going to the finals, and they're not going to be even get close because they need him. He's their best player, and they need everyone around him. It can't just be Marcus Smart. It can't be Gordon Hayward, because they're not on Jason Tatum's level, but they are as a team. The Celtics as a team with Jason Tatum leading the way, they can definitely make some noise in the East and go to the finals.
And that's the interesting thing about basketball too, is that normally it takes an entire team to win games in most other sports, but basketball seems to be the one sport where one guy can just take over and carry a team to victory. But at the end of the day, I still like the Celtics' chances of coming out on top in the Eastern Conference, even if Tatum doesn't live up to his expectations and they just play team basketball, because I think they do it better than any team in the league right now.
It's a waiting game, and we'll see how it works out with Milwaukee and Toronto currently up at the 1 and 2 spots. In the West, obviously, you've got the Lakers and Clippers, and I would not be surprised if the Celtics were to take some momentum and take it all the way to the end. But you never know in this season. The quarantine is hitting everyone hard in the bubble, and stranger things have happened with certain matchups. Some teams are pretty much playing themselves out of the competition while others are jumping up and trying to grab that leg. It's a race to those last spots for both the Eastern and Western Conference with the 8th seed. But in the end of the day, the news comes along, and we'll take it as it goes.